I thought being midweek that together we can debunk some coalition bullshit, because friends don't let friends vote for parties that deliberately lie to them, or promote the rise of extremism because of an aversion to an imaginary concept like woke. Let's start this with ACT MP Laura McClure, who this week has said that she gets a lot of parents upset with what's being pushed in classrooms. The woke stuff, probably. And that the PPTA spending 10 grand on a rulebook to tell which political opinions count as extremism is a bad idea. The PPTA has actually called for expressions of interest from writers to help them craft specific advice and guidelines on dealing with extremism in the classroom, which teachers are seeing an increase of. That's going to support teachers to recognise and respond to harmful online content and resilience against extremist ideologies, and show how there are links between historical rises in fascism and contemporary forms of ACT party policy. Modern fascism. It's a tool to help teachers deal with sensitive issues with sensitivity and confidence. According to the PPTA call for expressions of interest, which is publicly available on their website, Laura says schools should absolutely take note of actual extremism, not the ones where they're joking about blowing up the Ministry of Pacific People or taking money from people who want to blow up mosques and paying to hide a child sex offender from public through name suppression laws so it doesn't hurt their party's chances of being elected in 2023. But saying things like opposition to feminism, tradwife views, and anti-Māori racism, that's a step too far for the PPTA, according to McClure. What McClure is actually doing here is weaponising false equivalence, blurring the line between lifestyle choices and organised political ideologies, and is offering the perfect political cover for actual extremist recruitment to continue unchecked in classrooms. A lot of what she says downplays what experts call strategic aestheticization of extremist ideology. They're all part of the same desire, basically, to enforce these rigid historical hierarchies, the ones that traditionally punch down on women and ethnic minorities, and is the most common cross-pollination technique to create a pipeline to extremism, which the NZSIS has said is both one of their biggest concerns for the safety of public going forward and something that they recognise as a real concern here. So, McClure is downplaying legitimate signs, according to our security agencies and shitloads of academic research, that lead to the most extreme of views by pretending it's just teachers being mean to conservatives. Okay, next up is National's latest AI slop, claiming that the Greens are going to take almost half your income if you earn over 160 grand a year. National understands how tax bans work. They campaigned in 2023 on updating them, and the way that they work is to tax income in that bracket at that rate. So, your first 10 grand is tax-free under the Green proposal, and income you earn over 160 grand is taxed at 45 cents in the dollar. So, if you as an individual earn 160 grand and $1, that $1 is taxed at 45 cents, while the rest of it would be taxed at 33.5, which is only 0.5% more than the current comparable rate. But 96% of people would still get a tax cut from the Greens policy. And all of that is also clearly available online on their website in a document not made by an AI slop machine. Again, very easy to find and get the truth on. Okay, let's take a look at this weird obsession that National has now with Labour not releasing a full financial plan yet. You might have seen the millions of posts from most of the National Party candidates and MPs demanding that Labour release their financial plan. Over the past week, they've brought this up on their main page a number of times, and it's based on numbers that they've made up around cancelled projects, cancelled policies, and scaremongering over the Green Party tax plan to conflate it all to somehow demand that Labour release their numbers. Now, we're 4 months out from the election, and none of the coalition parties have released their fully costed plans for their policies, and yet National is demanding it from one of the opposition parties specifically. In fact, in 2023, National themselves refused to release their costings until just 2 weeks before the election. And when it was released, it was laughed at by economists for how it would crash the economy, drive people away from the country in droves, and lead to record levels of unemployment and suffering for those needing the most help. I wonder how that worked out. Maybe if National spent more time promoting their own policies than just spinning bullshit and AI slop about Labour, voters might take them seriously. Maybe. It's hard to tell these days. Right, and then let's take a look at New Zealand First claims that farmers need to see the biological definition of gender bill passed, which they based on their very scientific method of getting people to put stickers on a board at field days. Apparently that's what they count as proof. Now, Human Rights Commission, the Law Society, and a bevy of public groups have said that this bill's not just a waste of time, it is so poorly written it would have insane repercussions, like rewriting the laws around how laws are made, and defining fish as adult humans. And I'm sure Shane Jones would love to hunt humans as the ultimate prey, okay? And while they demanded that this goes through, they've also acknowledged that other bills like the new Health and Safety Bill is going to lead to more workplace deaths and refused to vote against it. Clearly, their priorities are not to keep people safe like they claim, it's to keep people angry. And voting for the only party that claims it has to make things more dangerous and are also somehow the only ones who can stop it is the way to make this happen. Okay, so here's the thing, all right? We really need to be really wary right now. We're in the pre-election period where there is no regulation on what parties and MPs can do beyond what's enforced by social media platforms themselves or is paid, so covered by the Advertising Standards Authority. And this is normally when having a robust media would come in handy to call out and clarify. But we don't have the most robust media in place at the moment. Take these two headlines for example, okay? Both of them refer to ACT's new beneficiary policy that would demand a medical benefit only to be made available if it's signed off by MSD authorised doctors. RNZ has framed this as a view from advocates working in this space. No one wants to be sick forever. ACT Party's new welfare policy slammed. Whereas the media outlet owned by a Canadian oil billionaire that has now funded 2 lawsuits to get other media outlets to stop reporting on things like how racists are and how the climate is changing due to man-made climate change, and paid for disinformation spreaders during the Wellington occupation, and bought this particular outlet because he felt it was too woke, framed this as a good thing because former Conservative Party Deputy Leader Christine Rankin-Sesso, absolutely right, former work and income head on ACT's new welfare policy. Which means we need to be really aware of what's being said, what's really happening, and what's at stake when politicians keep lying, misleading, and ignoring expert advice to stay in power, because, well, we've got some media outlets here who are just never going to call them out on it unless they absolutely have to. Hey, thanks for sticking around till the end of the video. While you're here, why not hit that like button or share the video or even subscribe to the channel. You could even become a paid YouTube member so you can see things released in advance, you get access to some exclusive content, and like all these awesome people, you get to have your name at the end of the credits as well.